Am I the asshole for telling my son, too bad, about having to do a 30-day jail sentence? I have 4 sons, 2 with my ex. I've been divorced from her since my oldest, Cody, was 10. We co-parented well until he turned 14 and was starting high school. He and his mother wanted him to go to a local school, Venice High, whereas I wanted him to go to private school. The odd thing is that my ex and I live in a very nice area, but the families often send their kids to private schools for high schools because they can afford it. Therefore, the local high school has a lot of empty seats and brings in kids who couldn't behave in their own schools. The local school is basically ghetto. There wasn't much I could do since my son was 14 and my ex was assuring me he wouldn't fall into the wrong crowd and I was simply stereotyping. My son thought Venice would be easier, and he could walk home from school. Lo and behold, by the time Cody turned 18, he dropped out of high school and became a pothead. His days were filled with hanging out with other potheads he met at school and skating and trying to be cool. His mom said he was finding himself, had plans to learn a trade, get a GED, etc. This led to him and I becoming estranged. Things at his mom's started to get crazy, so my other son decided to live at my place full-time. My son told me that Cody and his mom were fucking with meth. It made sense in a lot of ways. There's not much you can do with a tweaker who doesn't want to get help. Earlier this year, Cody got busted for felony meth. I paid a lot of money for a lawyer and rehab so he could have the felony brought down to a misdemeanor upon completion of rehab and probation and would have his record erased. He did get a 1-month suspended sentence on the condition he didn't get any more felonies. He was about to finish his program and probation, but he got caught with felony meth again. This was after he visited his mother. So far he's never spent a single night in jail. He was always cited, but he will have to do the 30 days since he has a new felony charge. Technically, I could hire a lawyer to bring the new charge down to a misdemeanor so it won't count against him. A public defender could do the same, but not before his court date in 2 weeks, where he has to surrender for his 30-day term. I just decided to let him go to jail and I would be perfectly fine with it. My ex and Cody are begging me to help and I am not the asshole. I went through a similar experience with one of my own children. 10 days in jail and 90 days in a state-mandated rehab program. That experience was what turned them around, and it's now been 3 years of sobriety and a whole new life. They have to sit at the bottom of the well for a while before they're ready to start climbing out. And even then they have to do the work. Don't send your kid to a spa rehab center. Send them somewhere that will make them do the hard work. Best of luck to you and to your son. You're not the asshole, but I'm side-eyeing you for calling the local public school ghetto. Not the asshole. Clearly being supportive didn't work. Time for tough love. Once he's done, he needs to get away from wherever it is you live. It sounds like he needs change of community. ASAP. You are the asshole for thinking there's more drugs in public school. You're a huge snob and you probably wouldn't let Cody sit in jail if he'd went to the private school of your choice. You're only letting him sit in jail for 30 days during a pandemic where people in prison and jails are dying at an insane rate, because you think he'd magically not use drugs if he went to your status symbol school. Nope. Cody would still be hooked on drugs. I mean, seriously. You think a bunch of spoiled entitled private school kids don't use drugs and laze around? Not the asshole. Addicts just take and take and take. Let him do the 30 days. He has to decide for himself when to make a change. Ooh, you are the asshole. Not for the jail thing, that makes total sense, and you seem to have helped out a lot with all the issues he got himself into. But who the fuck just doesn't take action when they hear that their son and their mother are involved with meth? You should have called CPS. You are the asshole. Not for letting your son sit in jail. Sounds like he needs it. But what did you do as a parent during his formative years to guide your child? The fact that you call the school ghetto, and then blame it entirely as the cause of his spiral to this point, just means you are skirting any responsibility you have. After all, the vast majority of kids go to public school and turn out all right. I suspect you are the type of dad to throw money at an issue as the solution, as opposed to actual parenting. I think there's way more than you're letting on here. You are the asshole for this alone. The odd thing is that my ex and I live in a very nice area, but the families often send their kids to private schools for high schools because they can afford it. Therefore, the local high school has a lot of empty seats and brings in kids who couldn't behave in their own schools. The local school is basically ghetto. Nothing else matter. This is a perfect example of why private schools should not be allowed to exist and how everyone that send their kids to private schools is complicit in the degradation of the public education system. And #X200B. Also, sending addicts to jail never works. It's a bullshit failed system, as addiction is a health issue, not a criminal one. You are the asshole, but only because I think if you knew your child's mother was the type to get into meth etc., why did you leave the kids with them? It also seems like you gave up on your child at 14. There is no description of your interactions from ages 14 to 18? Sorry, what does ghetto mean to you? 'Cause that's racist. Not the asshole. It's called tough love. You are making him face consequences for his actions. A kid who is never forced to face consequences. Google, Ethan Couch. You make a point to state that the school was ghetto. Judging by how people use that word, you likely mean that it has black and brown students. Says a lot about you. You tell the story of your son's downward spiral like some outside observer and not, his father. Mom was clearly a bad influence, but so were you, considering that you were essentially an absentee parent to your eldest son. It's clear you don't really care that much about Cody, because you would have tried to intervene sooner if you did. It seems like you wanted to be Mr. I told you so rather than being a good father. Not the asshole for letting your son face the consequences for his actions and decisions. Don't fall into the trap as some of the other posters though, thinking that his jail time will function like a rehab stay, or a scared straight situation. He's going to connect with many more drug dealers in jail. He's unlikely to stay anywhere close to the full 30 days, and he and his mother will cement their bond by vilifying you over the whole thing. Good luck. Info. So you were letting your wife abuse your son and get him into math, and you skip 4 years of how he developed getting into drugs? Where are you? Or did you abandon your son and act like you're completely free of all of this? Edit. Meant meth, but I'll leave it for comedic purposes. NTA for this instance in isolation, but Jesus Christ, in the 4 years between starting high school and dropping out you didn't notice a downward trajectory? You didn't think that maybe your ex was fostering an unhealthy or even dangerous environment for your kids? Where the hell have you been? You are the asshole. You are the asshole for thinking that sending your kid to a private school would have resulted in him being a perfect kid and labeling a public school as ghetto, and for having a general superior attitude. There are a lot of drug and alcohol problems in private school just as in public, and it's a jerk move to essentially blame education facilities for your son turning to drugs and not the many other factors in his life. That being said, you're not wrong for wanting him to go to jail. That may benefit him in the long term. Mom and Cody obviously the asshole for drug use. Also nothing wrong with tough love. However, in your post you sound like you had nothing to do with the situation. Where were you when Cody was 14 to 18? If you had an expectation of the ghetto school, did you keep him in check and pull him out when he started hanging out with the wrong group? As a parent, wasn't it also your job to keep Cody in a safe environment when the other parent failed? It's all in the past and what's done is done. But gotta see that he's part of the problem too. You are the asshole big time for clearly being an uncaring absentee parent that threw money as a solution to every problem instead of, being a parent like any decent person would. At least you have 3 other children as backup. Fingers crossed bad parenting doesn't screw them over as well. Info. Did you support him even after he went to the ghetto school? It looks like you got over him and didn't try to help. Did you just abandon him and leave him with the mom? I graduated from a ghetto school and went to a top university in the country lol, so don't put down these schools. It's all about who you surround yourself with and who raises you. Not sure if you neglected him after he decided to go to Venice High. Not the asshole for allowing your son to face the consequences of his actions. You are the asshole for your classist, racist bullshit. You are the asshole. Not for refusing to bail him out but for not acting sooner and being racist in your post. As a mom, I'd go broke paying for rehab. My friend's son passed away from an overdose at 18. She kept bailing him out and never sent him to rehab. I have a friend that went to rehab 9 times before she was able to stay sober. Don't pay for a lawyer. Pay for rehab. It hurts to see your child go to jail. But maybe he might wake up and get his addiction under control. Is there like a teen challenge program you might be able to enroll him in? He is young enough and they have turned around young people. Not the asshole. Info: how long did you know your ex was getting your oldest son addicted to meth? How involved were you in Cody's life after 14? NTA. He has to have consequences to his actions. Clearly, you basically saving him before had no effect. You can't be his white knight forever. He has to learn to be an adult and stand on his own 2 feet eventually without daddy coming in to save him. Not the asshole, for this issue, but did you just turn a blind eye to when you found out your kid was doing meth with his mom? For the jail, not the asshole is the right decision. But a big ficking you are the asshole for what you did to your son. Man, what the fuck, you watch his downfall for 4 years having a mother that do meth and you didn't even knew? WTF, you fail as a parent big time. Fuck the school schwaz. The school was not the problem, the mother was. You are the asshole, but not for letting him do the 30 days. You jump from, he went to this high school, to, lo and behold he was a pothead, like you had no influence in his life after he started high school. Where were you in all of that? Being an absent father because you didn't like where he went to school? That's no excuse. You played a large part in how your son is. Your ex played a monumental role in this, as she, his own mother, was giving, and at the very least encouraging the use of meth. You swooped in to get rid of the charged, but have you done anything else? Anything to get him help? Or do you shake him for his addiction, the same way you look down on the high school he went to as ghetto? This is far too complicated for Reddit, but it doesn't sound like either of you did right by your son. I would say not the asshole for this situation, because it could be good for your son and you're probably doing the right thing. But you sound like you handled the ex with kiddy gloves. You trace everything back to her decision to send him to public school, but let me tell ya, smoking pot and skipping class is nowhere near a clear path to meth use and failure. Having a terrible parent who allows you to get away with everything and then does meth with you will cause that though, and I'm guessing she didn't magically become a shitty parent overnight when he turned 18. So if you co-parented well until he was 14, not sure why you don't claim any responsibility for what happened after that. She didn't move or anything, doesn't sound like she moved or anything. You are the asshole. Your whole post reeks of a pompous, self-righteous, I told you so, kind of attitude that makes you come across as a massive elitist. Letting him spend a month in lockup may very well be the right course of action at this point. But the only reason you're at this point in the first place is because you've failed the kid for the last 4 years at least. You aren't suddenly making the right choice and being a stand-up kind of dad. Your failure has simply created a shitty situation where your particular brand of parenting is all that's left. Your poor kids, man. Technically not the asshole, but like another poster mentioned, your son is going to get to know a lot more criminals in jail. Not only that, but a felony conviction will further limit his career opportunities, making the drug economy an even more attractive option than it already is. And you said it yourself, he was set up to fail by his mother when he was 14, this isn't entirely his fault. If you want your son to make the right choices, he needs options to choose from. Jail time and a felony conviction will give him more bad options from the criminals he meets and less good options because of the criminal record. Again, not the asshole either way, but your call. I honestly don't have an opinion about whether you should leave him in, because I don't know enough about addiction or your son. But you do realize that addiction can happen just as much in private schools, right? This isn't because of the school. It sounds like your ex has terrible issues, and you're so judgmental your son wouldn't talk to you about things. I'm not saying his addiction is your fault, just pointing out an observation. I am not putting my judgment here, I will in a separate reply. But to call people who attend a public school ghetto makes you an awe. Didn't read the whole post, but I'm a teacher in a predominantly black urban school and your comments about the public school being ghetto are both racist and classist, so you are the asshole for that reason. You are the asshole for not providing your child with understanding and guidance when they're clearly sick. I'd gaff about jail, but don't be surprised if he has a hard relapse when he gets out. Losing interest in your kid because they drop out of school is some serious pussy shit. This kid obviously needs you. My ex and Cody are begging me to help. Tell them you already did and they messed it up. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. There are different ways of helping, but letting him avoid the consequences of his actions again probably isn't one of them. Septionder Cody, mom for giving her kid fucking meth, you for being an absent father at best. Where were you when he was struggling in school? You are the asshole. The public school is not responsible for your kid becoming involved with drugs. It's your fault and your ex's fault and your kid's fault. I go to public school plus my peers around me do drugs, yet I don't take drugs because I know it will harm my future. You are the asshole. Not because you're letting your son go to jail, but because you blame ghetto public school kids for causing your son's addiction. From my experience, it's at private schools where there are more drugs, and addiction can be many things such as abusing drugs to cope with an uninvolved father. Addiction is a disease. Let him go to jail if you want to. You are the asshole either way for your attitude towards your son and addiction in general. Not the asshole for this isolated event. The rest of it though, yikes. This is going to get downvoted like shit, but I really don't care. You are the asshole for your bigoted and racist comment about the school being ghetto. It's always cringe as fuck whenever white people use the term ghetto, and I'm assuming you're white because this post reeks of privilege and entitlement. Like, how dare you refer to underprivileged kids as ghetto when your kid is a meth addict? Make it make sense. Get yourself Unbroken Brain, a revolutionary new way of understanding addiction, by Maya Shalovitz, and read it. It will help you and Cody, who should read it, too, a lot. Here's a link. Good luck. Info: why didn't you get CPS involved when your son told you his mother was giving his older brother meth? Not the asshole for letting him go to jail, but somewhat the asshole for blaming the school and sounding at least really elitist if not a little racist when he was more likely introduced to meth by his mom than by his school. Hi. I hope you see this. If you truly want to help your son, he needs rehab, not jail. I'm a nurse at a county hospital on a lockdown unit. I care for inmates every day. Sorry to tell you, but there's easy access to meth in jail. I frequently have inmates testing positive for all types of stuff who have been incarcerated for months. Please, if you have the ability to support your son, do that. He needs someone in his corner. He's going to struggle to find a decent job with felony convictions. And if you don't care about that, I want to really pay attention to what I'm going to tell you next. Meth destroys your heart. Please get him help before he has heart failure and his heart is only working at 10 to 15% by the age of 30. You are the asshole. Your child needs to learn his lesson, but the way you talk about your children's mother, your children, the local school, marijuana, skating, and basically anything not up to your standards is definitely concerning. It sounds like he didn't end up this way for no reason. Jail did not work for my brother. He was sexually assaulted there. Addiction needs to be healed, not punished. The trauma from jail pushed his addiction further and he ended up succumbing to his addiction 7 years ago. 95% of the people I know that graduated from Venice are doctors, lawyers, firefighters, teachers, successful artists, or own thriving businesses. The other 5% had shitty influences and will flounder or fail forever. I grew up 3 blocks from the school. Though I went to Beverly Hills High School, I know for a fact that Venice is great. This is 100% a parenting issue and he would have had the same bad influence at a private school. You're not the asshole, but you're still wrong. You are helping him by letting him face consequences for his actions. Not the asshole. Your ex is the bigger asshole, and asshole honestly falls short of describing the extent to which she failed your son by actively doing meth with him. That said, you kinda make it sound like you just gave up on your son when he started down what you considered the wrong path, and if that's true, you also failed deeply as a parent. I'm sure there are details left out, but it sounds like you never fought for him much. That you sort of wrote him off as your fuck-up kid. I'm not saying you should necessarily try to bail him out, but when he does get out you should be there to help him get back on his feet and make sure he knows you love him regardless of any mistakes he's made. So based on the information here, I'd say you are the asshole but not the only one.